guys, welcome back to your daily dose. Today we're talking about Sistas, season 5, episode 1. We start off where last season ended off with Andy and Fatima sitting in Andy's office trying to get work started. Fatima looks visibly frustrated when she sees Gary walking into another office with Hayden. Andy wonders what that's about, and Fatima says she doesn't know, but she's unable to concentrate on her work. And so Andy finally breaks her down, and she admits that she's frustrated because essentially when she saw Gary in the lobby and asked him what he was doing there, he says he's here to see his lawyer. And she essentially says that Andy's busy. And he goes, that B word is not my lawyer. So after she hears that, Andy is ready to go and confront Gary, and Fatima is right there with her. In fact, she's taking off her earrings because she's ready to fight. Andy's trying to talk her off the ledge to say, listen, we're not going to fight in here, but she's going to handle it. So next we are reconnecting with Karen. If you can remember, at the end of last season, she was at the hair salon and started bleeding. And so now she's in the hospital with Pam and they're waiting for test results. Karen is shaken and she's frustrated with the way her life is right now. And Pam is there trying to cheer her up, telling her that she admires her. Well, except for in the whole relationship department, because Karen is a mess there, but we understand. Pam looks up to her. You can tell that Karen appreciates what Pam is saying, but it also doesn't help her feel better. So Pam asks her if she wants her to call Aaron or Zach or her girls, and Karen's like, no, I don't. She doesn't want anyone to know that she's in the hospital. She asked Pam to just go back to the hair salon, and Pam really doesn't want to leave her. But just at that moment, her mom calls, and we haven't seen Karen's mom or heard from her in a very long time. If you can remember back to season 1, her mom was really cool. But in any case, her mom calls her and can immediately tell that Karen is upset. Karen reluctantly tells her, where she is, and her mom says without hesitation that she will be right there. And it's real interesting because as tough as Karen acts, she really needed and wanted her mom in that moment. And that type of vulnerability is really refreshing to see on her, because sometimes it seems like she's hard at all the wrong times and it makes a lot of her situations worse. Now we're back at the law firm with my two least favorite people on this show, Hayden and Gary. Hayden starts off this conversation trying to hype Gary up into this poor decision to sue Andy. It makes no sense, y'all. I don't understand why he thinks he could do this. But anyway, Hayden starts to kind of go in on Gary a little bit by saying, I had all these women, all these B words, and I would never let them do anything like that to me. And Gary's like, when have you ever had a woman like Andy? And Hayden is saying, Fatima. I've had Fatima. Really? Fatima, you've had her for a moment, a night. Gary is trying to get some details so that he can go ahead and say, listen, though these two situations are not the same. And in doing so, he's asking Hayden, well, have you ever bought her a car? Have you ever bought her an apartment? And I just like to pause for a moment and say, Andy never asked for those things. You volunteered those things in her name to her to try and win and buy her back. And now that it didn't work, or it didn't work to your liking, when you got caught doing things you were doing, you're upset. Foolish. In any case, Hayden, in response to Gary's question, tried to get him back on track and said, listen, I would never do any of the things you do, but we're about to get it back from her, and we're going to teach that B a lesson. And right on that note, Andy walks in and said, what B are you talking about? So Hayden essentially is trying to get her to leave at this point. It's just like, this is my office. Why are you here? I'm talking to my clients. You don't need to be here. And Andy is insisting, like, listen, I know this is about me. You're having a conversation about me. I'm going to be here for it. What is this? What's going on here? And so Gary opens his mouth to say, I am suing you. I'm suing you for all the things that I bought you. I'm suing you for pain and suffering, and I'm suing you for distress. And I am sure we are all Fatima in this moment, because she's like, Andy, hold me back, essentially, because none of this makes sense. How are you suing Andy for pain and suffering and distress? Can we take a moment and go back to season 1 when you had her arrested and you brought up on all these charges? Your ex-wife was crazy. You over here playing tricks with therapists. Like, Gary has done the absolute most, and none of it had makes any sense. And Andy makes me question her judgment every single time they're in a scene together, because I just don't get it. But he gets to sue her for pain and suffering and distress. So Fatima calls Gary delusional. Hayden provokes Fatima. Fatima asks desperately if she could shoot Gary, and Annie's like, pause, I got this. So she asks Fatima to leave, and then she sits down and starts to talk to Gary. And she's like, why are you doing this? You don't want me, and I don't want you. You're doing this because you want to hurt me. You're suing me for pain and suffering? How so? You bought me these things because you wanted to control me, right? You bought me this penthouse so you can watch me. You were in your office watching my every move with other people. You bought me cars and all these things because you wanted me to act a certain way and treat you a certain way. He's denying it, but she's pushing him on it. She says that she wants to talk. She really is trying to push the fact that she thinks that they could talk their way to a peaceful place. But he's like, no, I'm talking to my lawyer. And then here come Hayden, and as his lawyer, you need to leave. You need to leave, sir. You need to exit with that smirk on his face. Anybody else can't stand the look on his face when he thinks he's like it and is being smug. He's the worst. Anyway, so Andy is not taking no for an answer, and it's like, look at me, you know that we were wrong for each other. She takes the file off of Hayden's desk and starts to look through the paperwork to see what exactly he wanted back from her. And she notes, the car and the apartment. And so she's like, you gave these to me. You bought them for me. You put them in my name. The only thing you didn't do was pay the taxes. I did that myself. And you also left me in a bind because by encouraging me to take this place, you're giving it to me, no strings attached. I sold my place. And so now I have nowhere to go. But you know what? Let's do this. I'll give you everything back and you refund me my tax monies. Is that a fair exchange? And when he turned and looked at her and he put his forehead in his hand, I knew that she had won. He looked up and asked Hayden to leave. So after he goes, Gary starts talking about how much he loves Andy, but in a weird way, in that she makes him really, really happy and makes him really, really crazy, and he's essentially just obsessed. Long story short, he's just obsessed. And Andy has to say, just because we love each other doesn't mean that we're right for each other. We are clearly not a good match. No matter how bad they want it, no matter how hard they work at it, it's just not going to work. Then he brings up Robin, and Andy's like, no, it's not about another man. It's about you and me. It's not going to work. Period. Let's let that go. She promises to be fair. She's going to give him everything back. She says she didn't want any of it. She just wanted him. But you know what? Right now it's over. And she makes him say it too. It's over. He attempts to say something else, and she goes, listen, I don't want any apologies. Let's just leave it here. And they leave peacefully. So next, we're at Maurice's apartment, and Q's there in the kitchen. He's cooking, and he gets a phone call, and it's from the detective that Danny was seeing last season. Q asks for an update, and a detective tells him that they got him and they were arrested, and he's referring to Maurice and Sabrina. And Q then goes, well, does that mean that they're going to let me go? And the detective says, well, you have to get a job and you have to testify against them in court. Q didn't have an issue with any of that except that he needed a job, and the detective said that he may have a lead. So in walks Calvin, who's surprised and frustrated to see Q in the kitchen cooking. So he's like, what are you doing here? You need to go. And they have a little bit of back and forth, but a long story short, Q says that Maurice said that he could stay. So Calvin says, look, I'm about to pack my stuff and I'm gonna go. I don't have no parts. I don't want any parts of this. So Q, I guess, talks him off a ledge by offering him a plate of food. I don't know what it is with both Calvin and Maurice. When Q says here's food, they just kind of come off the ledge. It's really weird. Maybe the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. In any case, just as Q is handing Calvin the plate of food, his phone rings, Calvin's phone rings, and he's like, why do I keep getting this call from a correctional facility? The only criminal I know is standing right in front of me. But to me, it's kind of like, I understand your trepidation, but obviously if someone keeps calling your number randomly over and over and over again out of nowhere, that maybe it might be someone you know who's in trouble. But alas, he ignores it, puts his phone down, goes to get a fork to eat the food, and while his back is turned, Q turns the silencer on his phone so he can't hear it ring for a while. I'm assuming he's going to take advantage of that time by trying to figure out what to do with Calvin, right? So now we're back at the hospital with Karen and her mother, and she's explained to her mother everything that's going on with her right now, right? She's in the hospital because she was bleeding, because she's pregnant. The doctors don't have a definitive answer. They keep coming in here, not telling her anything, and just keep running tests, and she's freaking out. And the mom's like, well, it's going to be okay. I understand why you're stressed. Do you want me to call? I'm going to call the father. I'm going to call Zach. And Karen's like, no, because I'm not sure if it's his. The mom mentions an accountant. I don't know what accountant she's referring to, but Karen's like, no, it's not him. And so the mom's like, no wonder you're going crazy. Everything is going to be okay. And the mother actually goes into describing her relationship with Karen's father, and it is surprisingly the exact same situation as Karen has gone through with Zach, right? It was a very tumultuous relationship, and she loved him a lot, but it just wasn't working out. And when he moved on, the next woman got the responsible man she always wanted him to be. And although she loved him, she realized that it just wasn't going to happen. And it's okay. After you've been through so much, the ups and the downs, it's hard to just turn that off. You can't just stop loving someone overnight. So Karen accepts that, but then she's like, well, what if it's his baby? I'm going to have to see him all the time. And the mom's like, girl, calm down. Let's deal with this situation right now and figure out the rest later. And reminds Karen that you were like this as a child, right? We would have Christmas, and the same day before Christmas is even over, you're thinking about next Christmas, and you have to remember to enjoy the moment. So now we're back at the law firm, and we see Fatima about to leave for the day. So she's there talking with Andy, and then Zach walks in, and they are just so happy and so cute and so in love. And Hayden's there, and he's like, why are these two people who have assaulted me, who should be in jail, at my place of employment? And they both just ignore him, and they just go on their happy way and are in love. And I'm in this moment just wondering, because Zach and Fatima, they have a spinoff show, and I'm wondering when their show takes place. Is it happening the same time as now, before this season, or after this season? So I'm curious to see how that pans out, but I'm happy to see that they're still on Sistas, because I think they still add a lot to this ensemble cast. So Zach and Fatima, they leave, and then Hayden is just there complaining to Andy, and Andy's like, get over it. They're not going anywhere. You'll be okay. Everybody knows that you were just being a jerk and you got what you deserved, essentially. Reading between the lines, that's what she was saying. She didn't say all that. She just told him to get over it. In any case, She walks away and he's saying it's not over, and knowing Hayden, he's probably going to continue to try something, but who knows. And then in the next scene, we're with Danny. We haven't seen her all episode. She's at the airport and she is experiencing a very rude customer. We have a husband and a wife complaining about the airport delays, and Danny trying to help them out, but the wife is just super rude and superficial and pushes Danny to the point where she basically is threatening to keep her off the plane. So the husband basically separates them and talks Danny off the ledge and thanks her for her patience. Well, it's not really the husband. They did explain in the conversation that they were divorced. So I'm wondering if this is going to be another male suitor for Danny potentially. Who knows? Back at the hair salon, Aaron walks in looking for Karen. He's been calling her all day and she hasn't returned his messages and he's worried. Pam does not let on anything. He wants to know where she is, what's going on. She says she doesn't know. He can't wait there. He's just going to have to go figure it out on his own. He doesn't like it, but he's accepting it. But then in wants Andy, who's looking for Karen for the same exact reason. Pam also lets Andy know, like, I don't know where she is. I don't know what's going on. Andy presses a little bit, but Pam still says no. Aaron asks to speak to Andy in private, and so they go into the office. Aaron asks if Andy knew what the situation with Karen, and of course Andy let on like, yeah, I know everything. She's my best friend. And he was looking for a little bit of advice of how to handle her. Andy gives him the perfect advice, which is to give her a little bit of room. She needs her space. She'll come around. It's okay. In that same conversation, she's asking him about Gary and if he was aware of all the crazy things that Gary was doing. And Aaron says no, but in what I think is a mistake, he let on that Andy should talk to Gary to learn about his relationship with his mother and why it may drive him to do some of the things that he does. And I'm just like, why did you say that? Just when we thought that it was the end, you are driving her back to this man. And I'm just like, oh, no more, please. She plays hard to get like she doesn't think that she's going to learn anything that justifies his behavior. And Aaron doesn't think that anything she learned should justify his behavior. However, she's likely going to let it justify his behavior and forgive him for it. So anyway, he leaves and he goes back out front to talk with Pam to ask her once again, do you know where Karen is? Pam eventually breaks and says, listen, I know where she is, but she doesn't want you or anyone else to know, so there you go. Andy calls Karen to leave her a voicemail, essentially saying that she needs to find her, and then walks out because, there's nothing she could do from that point forward. So in the next scene, you have Zach and Zatima in a parking lot, the same parking lot where they first met, where Fatima hit him with her car while he was on a bike. And it was just a moment for them to love on each other and for him to make them promise that if they ever, get so far apart or they ever become so mad and distant with each other, they have to come back here and remember where they first started so they can fall back in love all over again. To me, this is just foreshadowing that there's something coming for their relationship, if not on this show, then the next show. In the next scene, we have Sabrina, poor thing. She's in jail and she's like, what is going on? The police officer is being very abrasive with her, telling her that she needs to strip, asking her if her hair is her real hair, and it's not her hair, so she gotta take it down. And she's like, it takes a long time to take it down. I don't know what you're asking me. It's just a whole moment, and the police officer loses patience with her, not really knowing or understanding what she's being asked to do and what's going on, and basically asks the officers to take her away, essentially just force whatever needs to happen on her. So if you need to strip search her. If you need to cut out her locks because it's not her hair, then do that. Poor thing. In the next scene, we have Danny at the airport trying to call Sabrina, but she's not answering her phone because she's in jail. And as she's leaving that voicemail for her, Preston walks up and here he comes. apologizing again, asking for forgiveness, saying that he got really bad advice. But listen, you know, he understands where they left off, but he's coming back to let her know that he's going to get on this plane and he's going to go back home. And there's a girl at home that has loved him forever. And she's there waiting for him. And if he goes home to her, he's going to propose to her. And that's going to be it. Unless Danny asks him to stay. Now, these two I really like together. I really want them to be together, but I need Danny to... I don't understand her resistance. I truly don't. But I really hope we get more insight into it this season. I don't know what she's going to say to him, but I hope it's enough to get him to stay and they work out it a little bit longer. But that's where the episode ends, and I'm very excited to see where we pick up next week. So let me know what you liked or didn't like in this first episode of season 5 in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll talk to you again next week. Peace.